the press is like a foreign country. They do things differently over there. There's very much the absolutely, but with probably every story I've ever written about, I would do it differently now just because there's different circumstances, there's different expectations. But not so much even that. It's just the world has changed dramatically in terms of what is considered acceptable, what's considered workable in the last 10, 15 years. You just have to go back, and I do. I go, oh, I wouldn't have done that now. So that is, again, general, pretty much everything. Yeah, I'd say everything. And I'm sure in 15 years' time, it'll be the same about what we're doing now. So you can only do it in the moment.
I'm going to step in and say hi. My name is Adam Freeman. This is Comic Industry Insiders, a weekly podcast where we talk to the people behind the scenes of the comic book industry. This week, the person who I'm interviewing might be the insider of all insides. He is. Some call him a journalist. Some call him a gossip columnist. Some call him a comics fan. That's always what I always think of his. I think of Rich. Rich Johnston is arguably the most well-read comics journalist in our field. I would say that everybody loves him, and lots of people hate him, and they all read him. So I am so happy that he decided to join us today, and we can talk about comics. What's up, Rich?
Hello, Adam. Good to hear you. I'm coming here today from the Union Club on Brick Street in London's West End in Soho. So it's I'll be here for a little while. This is where I work. This is where I do a lot of my work. It's where I like to be called from a lot. I come into town and people can meet me here, and I can meet them in places. And Every now and then they let me know a little something. It's always nice. But yeah, and it's all tax deductible, which is fantastic.
I've got a little local bar that I do meetings at quite a bit. I've got one scheduled actually on Monday with a local editor. It's a pretty, for those of us who work from home,
it's tax deductible.
It's tax deductible beer. Yeah. It's awesome.
Well, the thing is, I was because I've been working from home for like a decade before it became popular.
Right, exactly.
And it was basically a case of my bloody wife kicking me out of the house, saying, get out, stop hanging around the place all the time, find somewhere to do your work. So I did. And it turns out I'm a much nicer person if I've got somewhere to go 2 or 3 times a week.
That's lovely. I like that. Yeah.
The kids definitely prefer it if I'm out of the
house. Do you have when you're at home? Do you have like your own private space, or are you?
I kind of did, but it's a bit. I don't want to be in a private space. I kind of like spread out across the lounge.
Yeah.
So, I don't like that either. So it doesn't work out. But someone like this.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
That's wonderful.
And every now and then, celebrity or two wants to go, say hi to this person, that kind of stuff. I was chatting to Lenny Henry, British comedian of the day, and it's just like, anyone could pop into this place. You never know.
That's wonderful. That's incredible. Do you, how's the Wi-Fi? Is it good?
It seems to be all right, yeah.
Good.
If anyone's in the union, I believe their code is yes, we have internet, which is a great code for anyone who needs it.
Good to know. Good to know. See there? Already tips on this episode. This is wonderful. You know what? I've always been fascinated by you and your work and your and the effect that you have had. I would say many have argued that it is. I think to me, it's always seemed a net positive. I've heard plenty of arguments it's a net negative. What I love most about every time you and I talk is that you are genuinely a comics fan, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me tell me the last 3 or 4 books that you've absolutely loved.
What I really
give me the gems.
I would say Ryan North. What Ryan North's been doing on Fantastic Four is absolutely wonderful. Massive fan of this run. It's a big Marvel book, and I think it's fantastic. It's one of my favourite stories. Also from Marvel, actually it was probably Al Ewing's The Venom Horse one-page stories from Venom War, which are literally nothing more than the fact that Venom Horse appears in the Venom 3 trailer. And so Al Ewing is doing a one-page strip about Venom Horse and nothing else every issue. And it's talking about absolutely insane stuff, whether that be French philosophy or Scott McCloud's Understand Comics. And every single time, it's just pointing out what a stupid, utterly ridiculous fact that he is writing a Venom Horse strip based on nothing more than the bit that they've seen in the trailer. And I think that is so funny. Also, Marvel, what does even DC? Wonder Woman. I think what Tom King and Daniel Sumter have been doing on Wonder Woman is wonderful. It's just the kind of comic I like to read. It's like kind of Dark Knighty, born again kind of a book. Yeah, and I'm really enjoying it. It's Wonder Woman versus the United States of America, especially the army, and that's a lot of fun.
That's always
More
good.
widely, Image Comics, I go for my utter favourite. It's been my favourite for years, and it's still Savage Dragon by Eric Larson. And not enough people read that book. I think it's got a very low print run and readership at the moment. I don't care. For me, it's like the modern day Cerberus. It's been going for so long
Yes.
that it's weeded out all the people who just can't cope with this kind of thing. And it's experimental. It messes around with the formats.
Mm-hmm.
It plays with all sorts of narratives. It's it's proper ongoing narrative that's been going for almost 300 issues, and he's the guy who's been writing and drawing the whole thing. So he's kind of the only one I can actually compare to, certainly the Western comic book sphere, to Dave Sim on Cerberus. Is Eric Larson on Savage Dragon, and I think it's really funny, and it's ridiculous, and it's serious, and it's also full of huge big spin fights around the place. Then it's everything else as well. It's the only comic that did the COVID lockdown and pandemic properly. It did it absolutely. It made it part of the narrative. It ran it along. It also played with all. It's set more than I think any other superhero comic book. It's set in our world with superheroes in it. So it's the same politicians, the same news stories, all this kind of stuff. So it's Savage Dragon. I recommend to every.
I think I only pick up an issue. Well,
I
pick up an issue every now and then just because it is. Yeah, it's bonkers. It's bonkers, and also I think it's
Go on.
No, I was going to say I think it's bonkers partially because he's having to put out an issue every single month, much like Dave Sim did, and there's no room for a self-censorship. He just all not stream of consciousness. That's impossible, but it is like there is no question. There's no self-doubt. He just goes for it.
It's certainly the closest, I think, to that. 100%. So there's no, again, I do have quite mainstream tastes. I mean, I'll always be buying anything and everything that looks interesting. One of my favourite comic creators in Britain is an artist called Mark Stafford. And his work is beautiful. It's somewhere between Ivan Dorking and Robert Crumb and Charles Burns and Bob Fingerman, and it's a wonderful mess of ideas and styles that are really quite disturbing, but filtered through a very kind of cutesy layer.
Yeah.
And so he can tell very dark, horrific tales, and you don't get instantly turned off, even though a lot of the stories he tells are really quite atrocious. I did a book called Small Before, recently, a collection of his work, which included this fantastic story about two Keijus coming to the same city. I think it was Tokyo. How embarrassing. They both turned up at the same city on the same day. Oh no, there's the social corral. Oh, I assure you, I had Tuesday. No, this is Thursday. Oh, no. It's hilarious and it's beautiful. It's beautifully drawn. Huge amount of destruction in full painted colour, while you've got the great British kind of, I think, social embarrassment of, oh no, let myself down. What will the neighbours think when they're huge Godzilla type creatures? So I mean, those are some of my favourite moments. I love it. I like a lot of the extremes. I like people playing with the medium. I don't take it too seriously at all. I do believe at its heart that comics are really stupid, which is why they can be absolutely fantastic and brilliant.
Yeah.
There's a few of the stuff I've been reading.
I love that. And I will say that I do want to come back around at the end of the episode and talk about, because you always have my favorite recommendations for TV that I have not seen. But we're not going to do that just yet.
I live in Britain and we have our own little ecosystem here. So
exactly.
Like 8 series or something. 8 seasons that you've no idea about. Like I said, you should watch this thing called Inside Number 9. You're going to really like it.
Yeah.
You go, oh my God, I can't believe that exists.
And it just keeps, there's so much of it. Yeah. And then it becomes your obsession for a little while.
Absolutely.
I would like
They're doing a stage show. Inside Number 9 is doing a stage show in London next year. You should clearly come for that.
Okay. Well, let's talk about you. So, when you're introduced,
my favorite subject.
Yeah, of course, for all of us. What when you're introduced, when you meet somebody at the pub and they ask you what you do for a living, how do you describe yourself?
a reporter on the comic book industry.
A reporter on the comic book industry.
That's if I'm, otherwise, sometimes I'll say other things. Depends what. Sometimes I'll say I'm a political cartoonist, because I do that as well.
That's true.
Sometimes I say I'm an advertising copywriter, because I still occasionally do that. That used to be what I do. That used to be my thing.
That you paid the bills with?
Bleeding Cool as well. Yeah. Well, it was actually more than that. It was a passion.
Okay.
And then Bleeding Cool kind of took over from that. But but usually I just say a comic book industry reporter. Best I'm going to say.
It's interesting. You say that you wrote copy for ads, and in many ways, Bleeding Cool is it's a conduit for ads, right? That is the revenue channel, right?
It's a free website. It's all free to readers. There's just adverts that pay for it.
Right. Right.
I'm not entirely sure. I don't see that. But I see the back end, which is all the kind of. I just see where all the gubbins is, all the pipes.
Yeah.
So I assume there's something out there which other people see, but hopefully.
Why bother yourself with that? Yeah.
I'm in the weeds, or the wires, or the duct tapes. Sticking everything together. That kind of thing.
So at what point? So in doing the research, it looks like you've been reporting on comics since what, 94? That area?
92. That's when I first discovered this thing called the internet.
There
weren't websites back then.
Right.
Fields. No, it was just message boards then, and I started just having a go. Thought that was quite a fun thing to do. I'll have been about 1920. I'll be 20. I was at university for the first second year in Newcastle, and they had the internet. No one else did. It was just universities back then. And then I stopped. Then you see as it kind of grew out, it grew and became a thing. But no, as a result, I'm going to get this right. I'm the longest standing comic book, longest standing reporter online of any kind. No one has been reporting online for as long as I have in any
beat.
In any form of any beat, any form of reporting. I've been doing it solidly since '92, and wow. I think I took 6 weeks off. 6 weeks off when my first daughter was born, but that's it. So I've been doing it. When my second one came along, I just worked with it. So it's.
Well, so there's your answer. You're the longest running internet journalist, right? Longest running.
I don't like the word journalist.
You don't like the word journalist. Why not?
Because journalist is a profession, and for me, this is a trade. I don't have any qualifications in it. You can't look. There's nothing of my name that's for journalism. I respect journalism. I sort of hate journalism as well. But I'm a reporter. Some people don't see the difference, but I think it's very much a difference between being a profession and being a trade. And also, it means that people won't say, "Oh, you can't say that. You're a journalist." I get say, "Yeah, I'm a reporter." It's a good cop out for me as well.
It is a bit of a cop out. I'm gonna agree with that. Yeah. Is there an ethical distinction that you think between those two? Is it a
journalists definitely doorstep people. They put their feet into doors, grieving widows, that kind of thing, and I try not to do that kind of thing.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right.
Well, I think got to remember this. We're living certainly in Britain, we live in a culture where there's been all sorts of journalists doing all sorts of terrible things, and sometimes they've been caught for them or not. We've had the News of the World newspaper got done for that kind of thing as well. So there's all sorts of issues. I thought the easy way to get around the whole journalism thing was just simply say I'm a reporter and go with that. And it's mostly, I think it's done me okay so far, I think.
Well, I would say so.
Every now and then I have to pretend I'm a journalist.
What's that?
Every now and then I have to pretend I'm a journalist, but no one really.
You put the hat on and the little press card. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. So you start off in like Usenet, then you do Twist and Shout. You've got Rich's Revelations, All the Rage,
Rumors. All the Rage. Now that was the first time when I was meant to be paid for that. I didn't get it, but that was the time that Silver Bullet Comics, I think at the time, they're now Comic Bulletin, what they are. They said yes, we'll pay you money to do a column every week, and I didn't get money. But the next one I did, and that was that was that would have been after then. I try to get this right in my head because there was Next Planet Over. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
Websites, Nicomania and Fandom became and things. They employed me for 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Like the gutter press
Uh-huh.
until I believe it was Kurt Busiek and Mark Waid after the stop of that. But that's a weird thing. I was edited by Eric Stevenson, who's now Image Comics publisher. I was hired by David Bogart. People who've been basically involved in hiring me for this, that, and the other, have now gone to far greater things. But,
That's interesting.
and after that, it would have been Comic Book Resources, who where Jonah Wylands got me to do it for them. And then he actually did pay me, which was nice, and that was fun. I enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
I was also that's right, Comics International, which was the British print trade magazine of the comics industry, was run by Des Skin, Warrior, V Vendetta fame, and the like.
Uh-huh.
He serialized what I was writing online in print in a column called Networks, which ran out. So I got paid for that as well.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. But it was also weird because initially when I started off, I just used to rip things off Comics International. I just used to read Comics International, rip things off, put them on the internet for Americans who didn't read this.
Right.
And, this is what I've found, I just rip it off. And then, rather than just rip me off in return, when I could become more successful, he actually paid me. So,
well, that's very Minchy of him. He could have just ripped you off in return. Yeah.
He just ripped me off. Yeah.
I remember, this is right about the time that I remember seeing your stuff for the first time. And I think it might have been, was Lying in the Gutters, was that CBR, or wasn't there an email or something before that? Am I remembering that incorrectly?
No, I don't remember there being an email thing before that. No, there was the Usenet, there was a website, Twist and Shout Comics.
Sure.
At the time, I was also self-publishing comics with an American friend who knew about websites called Mike Meyer. And that we were Twist and Shout Comics. And so we did a website and we put my rumor mongerings on there instead of the Usenet newsgroup. So it was fun. This is, I can only find this stuff on like internet web archives and things, all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So much of it, but the little bits of it emerge. You can find them there. You can find Google Groups, Deja News, recording all sorts of stuff back in the day. I can still find a few little bits there.
Yeah.
1992, and there I am, tapping away. Horrendous typos then, they are now. So it's good. Not too much to say.
Do you, like, when you look back on that time, are there any, like, do you have any regrets? Is there anything where you broke a story and that caused...
No, not so much that. It's just that I was doing this before Harry Knowles, people like that. I should have written about film. I should have written about film and TV, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Isn't that what comics? I'm a lot more successful now. But anyway.
So your regret is not any particular story. It's that you didn't pick a more lucrative
I should have changed more
fandom.
Anyway, there's always bits and pieces. There's probably some stuff there that I've got. I'll usually get things wrong. Don't like getting things wrong. And back then it's a lot harder to check. It's a lot easier to check now. So I'm a lot more reliable now than maybe I might have been in the mid-90s, when it was like, I hear something, I have nowhere to check. I might as well just run it. And see, what's the worst that can happen? Well, it turns out the worst that can happen is you get sued. So I've learned that one. I've learned that lesson quite well. I've actually ever been sued, but I have had people send me some very interesting letters and emails, very, very strongly worded letters and emails.
Yeah.
Occasionally a phone call. So these things do go up. What was the one? There was one where I had a story about 2000 AD, and they put out an email address to contact them about stories. Or about anything. Rather than it going to their press people or whatever, I think it went out to all their investors by mistake. So here I am asking a question about, I hear this is happening with 2018, really, is this true? Because it goes out to all their investors and they go, what did you do? I emailed the email, you said I should, it's on your website, and it is not. Because, no, they didn't sue, but it was a bit of that wasn't a good one. There are a few things like that every now and then.
Well, good. Do you? You mentioned that Eric Stevenson was your editor when you first got that gig, and so now Eric is the publisher of Image Comics. Yeah. When I look back on the people who you have either worked with you or close to in comics journalism that are now in publishing, it tends to be people. I mean, seems to be this pipeline of people like Arun, who is now over at Skybound. We've got Hunter Goranson at Oni. got Hannah. I mean, Shannon. She bopped around. I mean, all of these people that have like
loads,
become.
a bunch more,
Yeah.
Everyone, I know Donny Cates and Keith Davidson and all sorts of folks.
Yeah.
So So yes, there's all sorts of people who kind of come and go on, do other things, and every now and then I say, come on, you can tell me about what you're up to, can't I? And they go, I can't say anything. But for old time's sake, it's not going to happen. So yeah.
Have you ever taken it easy on somebody just because they were also a journalist in the an alumni?
Ooh, that's interesting. I don't think so. No. And I think it's easier not to because if you've done that kind of thing, you kind of know the game, as it were.
Yeah.
You know that you're going to get challenged for things. So, and it happens to me. I'll be challenged for things, and I'm fine with that. It's part of. I'm putting my name out like this. I'm going to get it. It's going to happen.
It's going to come at you, right? Yeah. So talk to me about the early days of Bleeding Cool. You're doing Lying in the Gutters at CBR, and at some point, it's time to like make this its own thing.
Well, it's more that it's time that we had a bit of a recession in the UK at the time, and all the advertising agencies in London fired all their writers overnight, and I could not get work to save my life. I think it's just moved house, we just had my second daughter, so it was quite high pressure time to lose my decent London salary. And that's when William Christensen at Avatar, because I basically talked about this, he said, you know that thing you do every week that annoys me? What about you do it every day, and I'll pay your mortgage. I'll pay off your mortgage for now. No, not pay off, but monthly I'll pay for your mortgage. And I thought, well, that sounds amazing. And so that's how it started. It was just like a few articles every day for William Christensen at Avatar Press. I thought I asked me to name it, so I came up with a bunch of names, and Bleeding Cool was my favourite, and it was his. I don't know if it was his favourite, but it was the favourite of other people he asked.
Yeah.
And so that's what it became. And then a few other people started writing for it, and then it's kind of grown and become this behemoth. And then at some point, it was because when I was doing like part-time copywriting and doing this on the side, and William said, yeah, you have to choose, mate. You have to choose. Do it for Bleeding Cool full-time, or just stop it now and do your thing. Yeah.
Been ever since.
I've been working, ever since. I've been full-time Bleeding Cool. So now that's all I do, pretty much. Occasionally, I might get a little side thing. Oh, sorry. Okay. I need to whiz off shortly. We can talk and walk.
Okay.
So it was a weird time. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was a weird time. But it gave me such a great opportunity.
Yeah.
One that I haven't had. So yeah. It's really good.
So I'm gonna start with something really fluffy, and then I'm gonna come after you a little bit. Okay.
Me, bro.
I like it. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm going to read this quote that I found when doing this research. This was from the mid '90s. The name of the site doesn't really matter, but it's quote: "Bleeding Cool is just foolish and less polished about it than CBR, Newsarama, comicbook.com, Comics Alliance, Comics Vine, Comicosity, and any number of the long-running successful websites that traffic in large page views."
Died now. Have a lot of them disappeared?
This gets to my question: how does it feel to win? Like none of these.
I haven't won.
No, you don't think so?
Oh, I never see it like that. No, I would never see it like that. I'm glad I'm lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Glad I was lucky to hitch my horse, as it were, to hitch myself to push an independent person. Someone like, again, Avatar Press, William Christensen, Mark Seifert, people like that. It's they're not venture capitalists. They've not been bought out by anyone. And that's the thing. It's all these other websites that have gone. The people are owned by kind of big businesses that have been sold on and turned into other things. And I was very lucky that the offer that I got wasn't one of those. Otherwise, I would have suffered just the same as everybody else.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's funny. All of my interactions with William Christensen have been like, this guy's kind of cantankerous, right? He's a little curmudgeon-y. And maybe that's what we need. We need somebody who's just so fiercely independent that they're not selling out to the VCs. Yeah.
100%. And even within companies, like you can have people like that who are very, very useful for that kind of company who have that kind of mindset. But,
so, for the past, I'm going to say, for me, the last 15 years of my life, I've worked as a publisher in publishing and worked as a publishing executive. I will say, for the most part, I started this whole project to kind of bring the people I was meeting to the forefront and talk about people behind the scenes. You have done the same, but many would characterize how you've done it as essentially, I don't know. You talk about rumors. You talk about people's. Occasionally, you talk about people's personal lives. Occasionally, you talk about their behaviors. And I guess my question is, do these people deserve it? These are people who are office workers. They are people who are just trying to feed their families. Is this something? Have they put themselves into the limelight in the same way that somebody who is, like, say, in entertainment, like an actor does?
They are in entertainment. Absolutely, they're in entertainment. I mean, I would suggest that what really cool is it treats comic book publishing as every other entertainment form, whether that be film, stage, radio, TV, books, publishing, anything. Um, I do believe that certainly for a while comic books weren't treated that way.
Sure.
I think they are more now. And partially that actually might have been part that maybe something I may have actually contributed to. So yeah, I would say no different to what, say, Deadline or Variety or Hollywood Reporter do to their respective industries, and some of them do it to comics as well. I would say I try and apply the same rigor to comics as other bodies do to film or any other or television or comedy or other entertainment. So that often will mean the creators involved who do that work. That also sometimes means the executives or the backroom boys or people like that who also, I guess, become a subject of news depending on what's happened or what they've done.
I got you.
Positive or negative. You can go both ways. Also, certainly, the comic book publishers, I would say, they are often push and promote people in just that format. So you talk about the backroom people. Tom Brevoort, I would say, or C.B. Cebulski, or go back, Dan Didier, or Jim Shooter, or blah, 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 Stan Lee.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing, and they were pushing themselves in that way. Absolutely.
Okay, so then to that end, are there any lines that you won't cross? Let's say you learn something about someone that it does affect their work, maybe does affect, the comics, but you won't report on it. Is there anything like that?
Certainly. I think that common one would have been when people, you find out about their sexuality. Back in the days, that would have been a news story, I'm sure. It's not now. It hasn't been quite some time.
Right.
I've had stories. People say, "Oh, have you heard this person's this person's that?" Yeah, I don't really care. Again, I think probably marital infidelity, unless it's something very much specific to the work. So if, I don't know, a comic book executive decides to give one of their artists an awful lot of work so they could then sleep with that artist's wife. And the point you might know what I'm thinking about. It would be wrong because I can think of 3 examples.
I was about to say, I can think of at least 2.
Then that is a story.
Yeah.
It's called worth covering, because then it becomes something else. It's not just about the personal matter, it's personal affecting other things. So yeah, I think that would be probably I sometimes think it's just like trivial or tittle-tattle that's not really harming anyone. I don't have that as part of colour or something else. Probably wouldn't be a headline in and of itself. But so there were definitely things that I just wouldn't look at. I don't consider newsworthy, and so I would probably stay away from. But there are some things about. I've written some negative stories about, say, people stories that someone tried to get me not to, because this person was a nice person. I shouldn't be writing the story because the person was a nice person. And I feel like, yes, but it happened at a comic convention. The police got involved. This is a story. So I've lost friendships over that kind of thing. So absolutely. If it's a story, I will try and go for it. If I can find a story, I can back it up. I think it's newsworthy. Yeah, I will go for it. Doesn't always work out.
We both work in comics. We both go to conventions. We both end up at bars after conventions. So we've heard crazy stories.
Stories there. Yeah.
Are there any stories that you have chosen not to report on that are just so good that at some point you had to pull them out of the vault, even though they no longer are applicable?
I think I've heard stuff that have been on backup. There was some cases. I mean, often there's been lots of stuff we heard about sex harassment and sexual abuse in the industry,
Sure.
and I've reported on a number of stories. Some I haven't, and I specifically reasons would be because I'd hear the gossip. I'd hear people come to me with examples of what they've been told, what they've been heard. And there's one, I'm not going to name them, but there's one person who lots of stories came out about, and some people reported them. And I basically, I think I had 4 examples of stuff that they were meant to have done. And I tracked it back to the time when it was going to happen, and the people it was going to happen to. And every single time, it was not true. It had never happened. Um, so yeah, I'm not going to run that story. If I can find people involved, go back, and they're telling me this is not true, in a time when it's not in their interests to tell me otherwise. To tell me otherwise. Then yeah, I won't. If I can find it, there are stories that I come across and I can't back them up.
Right.
The more serious ones, if I can't back them up, I'm not running that purely as gossip. If I might run it if it's not like the stories, if it's not that serious. If I can't back it up, but I've heard the stuff, I'll report it in that fashion. But if it becomes something like sex abuse or all sorts of things that I've heard, but I can't actually get anyone who will actually back them up, then no, I'm not going to run that.
I'm thinking of a particular story, and I don't want to name any names because we shouldn't get into muckraking again. I think, not to say that this was muckraking, but I'm thinking of at least one creator who had multiple allegations of misconduct about their behavior, right? And you reported on those allegations. When I go back and I reread some of those stories, that creator doesn't work inside of comics anymore. I think mostly because of that period. When I go back and reread those stories, I think my challenge is this is, I mean, read in a completely different light in a different time now. This is not, this doesn't resonate in the same way that it would have then. I know I'm having to be really cagey about that. You know,
there are several people this could be referring to. So
exactly.
I'll type it. Okay.
I'm trying to keep it very vague. So I guess my question is, like, this is a person who now no longer is able to work in our industry, in our chosen profession. This is a person who is not able to do what they love. And, you know, and I would say maybe one of those 3 things that was reported on, maybe one of those was a drunken mistake, and the others were just kind of people being people. So I guess my question is, like, is there any time are there any stories like that you look back on and think, man, if I'd done that differently? I
think you always look, certainly, what's that phrase? The past is like a foreign country, they do things differently over there. There's very much absolutely, but with probably every story I've ever written about, I would do it differently now just because there's different circumstances, so different expectations. But not so much even that. It's just the world has changed dramatically in terms of what is considered acceptable, what's considered workable in the last 10, 15 years. You just have to go back, and I do. I go, oh, I wouldn't have done that now. So that is, again, general, pretty much everything. Yeah, I'd say everything. And I'm sure in 15 years' time, it'll be the same about what we're doing now. So you can only do it in the moment. I'm even trying to think back about stuff. I don't think anyone's actually even stopping anyone from doing that kind of work right now. There's might not work for certain people and not certain companies. There are certain like HR restrictions as well. But seriously, right now, anyone can put anything on Webtoon, anyone can put anything on Kickstarter.
That's true. There are no gatekeepers.
No, exactly. So I would say it's a different time in that the gatekeeping system, as it were. Has gone, and even then there really wasn't that much of what we mostly have was I don't want to work with this person would be the thing,
right?
And that was pretty much because public pressure is a lot less. I mean, I think what a lot of people realise is that social media doesn't actually affect anything. A lot of people now realise this. It's really hard. It's really hard. It has to be a huge swell of millions of people to actually affect anything. What it can do is it can persuade certain people that they don't want to work with somebody else. And that's pretty much its only power, and it can work. But that then comes down to the individuals, and I struggle. I'm trying to think all the people who had that kind of repertoire who couldn't actually do that work today in one form or another if they so wished to. Now, they might not want to. They may not want to get the barraging they may get as a result, which is also a thing. But I mean, this thing, I've never wanted to, in any form, to cancel anyone, as it were. I've run stories about people, and I like people to be informed. I think that's different. But I read and enjoy work from people who, all sorts of cancellations, who have done maybe terrible things, or very definitely terrible things, possibly rumored things. For me, that doesn't make any difference. I will still enjoy the work. And that's the case for whoever is there's so much about them. I think knowing things is fine. But I've got no intention to cancel anybody. And I don't boycott anyone and sign things so people get fired. I don't like any of that at all. And I've quoted all over various bits of media pieces to talk about this. The phrase that people use, the most overused phrases right now in online debate seem to be either fascist or communist. And they very, Nazi, they very rarely apply to anything. I mean, it really is.
It's really difficult to be a true fascist or a true communist. That's a real, very narrow field.
Exactly. It becomes an easy and lazy way to make someone you don't like, definitely someone who everybody shouldn't like. That's a very common one. There's a lot of dehumanization that goes on, and I would hope that I've never contributed towards dehumanizing people. If anything, I like to read especially something like nuance, or people have got complex stories, or stuff is going on. It's very different to dehumanizing people, treating people as things, or evil, hated robots. Now, I would hope I wouldn't. If anything, I hope against that. I like to be balanced. I like to, if I can, I would always like to try to show both sides of the story, because if sometimes I'm not able to because one side doesn't want to say that. And there are all sorts of complexities. I mean, there's one you may well know quite well at the moment, and I've had a story about that sitting, waiting to be approved, to be going back and forth with various different editorial, legal types for a little while now. At some point, I hope it'll be public. But again, that would be hopefully, because it would be as balanced as anything else I could. I want to show everyone's side on this. I never want to just show this is a definite thing. Now, it does sometimes, especially when it gets personal, I guess. So when, I don't know, one of my writers is sexually assaulted in a hotel bar at a comic convention, that will get my attention, certainly. And I will definitely want to talk about this sort of thing, and that has happened.
Right.
I'm getting a little bit angry about it right now. But even in that kind of case, I want to hear from this person. I want to hear other sides. I want to hear extenuating circumstances, as well as I'm also going to run the story.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's. I mean, it's a fair rationale. I think it's. I can see that that's going to be a really difficult line to walk on a regular basis, and I also you do.
Yeah, no, it's sometimes going to be absolutely has. And this is the thing: no one sees. I mean, why should they? Why should anyone care? No one sees all the wheels, the machine in motion. Right. I was going, you haven't run the story. That's because you're in hot to the global elite who are protecting this person. So that at least has given me some insight, I guess, to when I see other people doing stories or not doing stories, and people condemned for doing them or not. I generally go, oh, well, there's something else going on. I bet there is. I want to know what the Slack channel in that particular publisher is like. People have been condemning The Guardian recently for not running the story, and I think, I know there's people at The Guardian who are wanting to run the story. There's something going on. We've been talking about nothing else since July. I am sure of this, but we can't see any of that.
Right.
If you can't see it in it, that most people think it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I see that. The duck placid on top of the water when flapping its feet underneath.
I don't like that. I don't think much is going on. I've had a look. Put my head into a pond. Ducks aren't doing much. Mostly they're floating. Ducks are mostly floating. I think this whole thing is a myth. about what's going on beneath
The
the
myth
surface.
of those
I think
lazy-ass ducks
lazy.
have been
Ducks
getting
are lazy.
by on this for
And, yeah,
decades.
and
It
they're getting
ends now.
absolutely. There we go. More like ducks. Cancel ducks. No, don't. They've got a very hard life. Stuff's going on in their life. I don't want to cancel ducks. I don't want to condemn them, but I would like people to know they're not quite as active downstairs as sometimes they have led us to believe.
All right, that's
So,
fair.
yeah.
Speaking of animals, let's talk about moles. You have
My favorite animals, yes.
yes.
I love a mole.
You do love a mole. You do love a mole. How do you? Can you talk? I mean, I'm sure that there are plenty of people who are no longer in our industry that work at publishers that are no longer there. Can we talk for a moment about maybe there's a story that comes to mind about someone who is a mole and why they would talk to you? Why those stories would come out?
Usually, it comes down to the people at the top being really quite oppressive to the people on the bottom and say, you can't do this, you can't do this, you mustn't talk to this person, you can't do this. If you say something, you'll get fired. If you act out, you'll get fired. You'll get. It's that kind of real kind of oppression. And no one must say anything to anybody. And they push down from high. And when you push down from high, stuff squeezes out the bottom. It just kind of seeps out. And that's where I am with my little cup. I would say something that's like a pressure valve. Moles and that kind of thing, whistleblowers, it's like a pressure valve when an awful lot of pressure has been building up within an organization about something or other. And I think it's really healthy for there to be some form of pressure release within the system, so I think I might be, rather than the whole thing exploding, or imploding, which is what will happen if people will just quit, people will leave, people start screaming, things will be thrown from the tops of skyscrapers, people will start running around shouting at people, accusations will be thrown about. That I'm aware of serious active violence that occurs.
I've heard all of those stories
when we've not actually had that kind of thing. And I'm not. It's not like I'm new at this. I'm not the only one who's doing this. The Comics Journal used to do this. Paul Levitt used to do this when he used to run the fanzines, Comics Reader stuff back in the day. I've read some of the stuff. It's bleeding cool all the way, baby. It really is. I know Paul had quite a problem with flying the girls and bleeding cool stuff over the years, but my God, I've read some of that stuff. You were doing it, Paul. You were running stuff. I look back and actually that wasn't true, but it was stuff that's clearly being discussed at the time, and he used it. Again, it's a safety valve. I think it's a release, and I think people like that's what gossip is. I think it's a release. So whistleblowers, moles, absolutely, definitely a part of that. I think when you're in a company that gets a certain position, I mean, we could look at say Marvel during the bankruptcy days, and they were trying to reform that, and all the massive pressures and people being fired and everything mattering so much. Yeah, it was going to leak, and it leaked big, and so and I was there ready for it. So and now people can read all that kind of stuff, and it's quite fun that I like Sean Howe's book because it's finally I can say all that stuff you said that I said was reported, you said it wasn't true. It's in this book. He's put it in there, so that's always useful. Even if it's like 30 years later, I'll still think.
This does dovetail into one of my questions. Do you have a book in you? Or do you have something on that you'd like? Because it's a pretty common path.
I a lot of Golden Pool articles, and that would probably be a book. I don't know. There's one thing I like to try and everything I know, I try and put out.
Yeah.
I try and publish. And there's very little that I haven't been able to over the years, really. A handful of articles which wouldn't make a book. So unless it's really kind of you go on Amazon and you find people who've like cut and pasted Wikipedia articles and they're calling it a book.
Sure.
What it would be. It'd be cutting and pasting a bunch of Google articles with a little bit of adjoining bits.
But building a whole narrative, I think you could. I don't know. I think you would be uniquely qualified for that.
There's some things. I did a comic book with a guy called Simon Longmuller a few years ago called Watchmen, which was a look at the comic book industry from the 1930s to now, how it's treated creators differently using the language and the characters of Watchmen. And that was quite fun to do. Also, lots of work, so much writing there. Not so much research. I think I probably could. There's probably something in there. I don't know if I have the time. Because that's the other thing. Beginning course takes a lot of time. there'll be fewer articles on the site today because of this. Just to let you know.
What, because of this?
Oh yeah, because of this, yeah. Because during this time, I could have written 2 or 3 articles. Just so you know.
Oh, sorry.
And I'm going to the pub later. I'm going to the pub later, so you know, got no chance there. So yeah.
I'm a little bit afraid of William Christensen. He does intimidate me a little bit. So I want to say I'm sorry, Bill. I promise to let him back to work real soon. Yeah.
And also, William, it's fine. I've got a lot more articles than writing for. I felt like I sort of let him down. Again, I have a lot of loyalty to William. He showed a lot of trust in me at a certain very vulnerable time in my life, and he helped me sort everything out. It was a really low point before William Christensen fixed my life. And so it's something I remember some people talk about the day. There was because there were quite a few people in my similar position to me at that time. And when the bleeding cool thing came along, it was like, oh, no, okay. And I definitely felt like a lucky guy. And they've gone on to do lots of other things, and that's great and fantastic as well. But I've got to stay doing the same thing since then, and I'm really happy.
This was around 2000.
Yeah,
you said 2008, 2009, right around there.
I know.
The reason I'm in publishing is because my shop suffered so deeply during that period that I had to go find a job. Right? Yeah.
And
it's tough.
Out.
Yeah, it worked out. Well,
it's all right, yeah.
So now that I want to fluff up William here real quick, so that I want to repeat the question that I had earlier that you got cut off when you're answering. So let me do the build up, okay? This is a quote from a site. Doesn't matter. That site is basically dead at this point. But the quote is, Bleeding Cool is just a foolish and less polished about it than Comic Book Resources, Newsarama, comicbook.com, Comics Alliance, Comics Vine, and Comicosity, or any number of long-running and successful comics websites that traffic in large page views by working directly with the big publishers. And so my question after that quote was, what's it like to win? You are the last, I mean, not the last one standing. There's maybe 2 or 3 of you.
I don't think we won. But also, I don't work with the big publishers. I'm blacklisted by DC. I'm still pretty much blacklisted by Marvel, but you know, I don't get any. The way a lot of websites work is that they're very nice to the big publishers, and then they will get an exclusive interview or exclusive news announcement. They get lots of traffic from that, and as a result, they won't annoy or piss off big publishers too much between those moments. And I don't do any of that. I will run the story that they told me ask me not to run. I will still run it, and I will get blacklisted as a result. Usually until that marketing person leaves, I try to outlive, or well, not outlive, but certainly I'm around longer than whatever marketing person's around. But I've got to say, you know, DC have been pretty consistent. I think it was when I ran leaked artwork for the Before Watchmen comics at a time when they wouldn't even exist. Admit they were going to do a Watchmen prequel, and I kind of ran those pages of the artwork on Christmas Day. Oh, that was a fun one. And so basically, I know, but I basically meant that they had to do work on Christmas Day, and so did their lawyers, and the lawyers had to do work on Christmas Day as well. And so I get the cease and desist, and then of course I do the exact same thing on New Year's Day. And then I discovered that basically lawyers don't take Christmas Day off, but they do take New Year's Day off. And so the day after that, then I finally got some more legal paperwork. And yeah.
All right, so let me push back then.
I'm happy to run these stories, and I'm really glad that I do. And I feel that I get to run stories that I wouldn't run otherwise if I was working with these big publishers. They would not allow me to run stories. And so I run stuff early, and people readers like that, and I think it's quite fun. Just yesterday, I think DC announced that they were doing a Trinity series with Tom King. I mean, we ran that a month ago. I'm really glad we ran that a month ago because we'll be able to discuss it and talk about it for last month. And no other site would have done that. They all knew it was true as well. But they all been told, no, don't run the story, we'll keep it exclusive in a month's time. And they just don't run the story.
But is that a net negative though? I'm going to push back. I want to push it back here a little bit. Is that a net negative? Because are you diminishing the sales of these books by not allowing them to promote?
No, they're still promoting. In fact, they're getting more promotion. No, they're absolutely not. I think it's none of this is actually affecting their ability to promote. maybe effectively their ability to promote how they like to the story. I would say that the new Trinity book by Tom King has been discussed a lot more in the last month than it would have been if they'd only talked about it yesterday. And they're still talking about it, so it's not like it's stopped anyone. It's just that the fans have been a bit more involved. We've been able to talk about it before, knowing that this is coming. And then when it comes, go, yeah, it's great. It's fun on the news.
So you're saying you've prepped the super fans to talk about it when they finally release, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, to some degree, yeah. But it's just we like to know. I'm going to take this one out because
I get you.
I'm reporting on stuff, and so so I saw some of the super fans. And yeah, I get a kick out of it. Of course I do. I like to run a story that I know is true, that everyone's saying isn't true, that in a month's time they'll be going, oh yeah, this is true, and some of them are going, hang on, did some guy talk about this a month ago? Oh no, ignore that. We want the exclusive. But yeah, can't nobody else can run it before us. No, I enjoy that. I am certainly vain enough that I get tickled by that kind of thing.
You talked about outlasting marketers. Who is the best promoter in comics?
Yeah, don't negotiate with PR people. Outlast them. That's my only suggestion. My only recommendation.
Good. That's a good tip.
Just keep it long enough. They'll be hired by somebody else at some point. It's like if you have so that is what my great success is: persistence. I've been around a long time, and now I think some people are going, do you know what? Maybe he'll still be here next year. Maybe we're going to have to at least accommodate something. So I know I've learned stuff that this last year that I probably wouldn't have learned in previous years.
Right.
Over stories that I've been running. I mean, all the stuff that's been going on about the absolute DC universe and DC All In. I mean, we were running that back in October, November last year on Bleeding Cool kind of thing. And I reckon that and I've got to say, a lot of the stuff that I've reported has been pretty much on the. We still haven't heard too much about Dennis Camp's Absolute Martian Manhunt. Still waiting on that one, but pretty much everything we've run has been confirmed one way or the other. I'm not normally that accurate. I think that as a result of getting in it early, I've had a few more things come my way that have been a bit more accurate than otherwise they might have been. So,
all right.
Look at it. But I think some people are going, he's going to find out at some point. Get someone to say, although sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, I remember I think it was the 52-week comic.
Yeah.
That, like, Jeff Lemire and a bunch of other people were doing. Thinking they're mock-weighting people. Anyway, someone, and you can see it on site, they linked from the writer's room. They took a photo of the whiteboard, or like whiteboard, it was like a big noteboard, and there's some words on it. And it was very much, we're going to send this to Rich. He won't say what it came from, but it's obviously, he's going to leak it as a bit of a PR for the new 52 comic book, which is great. If they hadn't thought that they'd written something on the other side of that front page, and if you messed with the settings and the pictures, you could change the exposure. You could bring out what was actually out on the other side, which included the finale to the 52 weekly comic book. Obviously, I was going to run it. Obviously, but oh my god, that was everybody do their best. They try and leave something for me. I still all over. Anyway, but I was going to do it.
Of course.
It's like, oh god. So you literally said the ending to your comic book. Sorry. I've got spoiled everything up. So even when they try, it never works out well.
All right. So who is adept? Who's the best promoter in comics now? Mark Miller. Why?
Yeah. Because he's got team writers. He worked out that he's got like team hacks or team journalists various media organizations where he could basically get them to run a false story. And whether they know it's false, I don't know, but they'll certainly play along with it. And they're quite happy to play along. And he knows if he can get something in a small, tiddly newspaper in the north of Scotland that's just like Clydesdale Advertiser or whatever, or whoever they are, it will get picked up by the local press, like the version of the Scottish version of the Times will run a version of it. And online, no one can tell the difference between the Scottish version of the Times online and the Times of London newspaper, organ of record. And so he could just take that thing, send it over somewhere else, and it'll get picked up, and fake stories will run, and they'll become big, promoting his work. And he knows how to work. He knows how it happens. He's done it time after time after time. Fake stories that get picked up and they become huge, and sometimes they become real. That is the greatest one. It's amazing how he managed to basically manifest the film Wanted out of the comic book through a series of meetings with Universal where they basically just say, you can't say this. You can't say that Eminem is starring in a film version of Wanted. He's under our contract. He's not doing anything with you. He's not in this. You can't keep saying this just because you put him in your comic book. You can't keep saying this. What is this Wanted thing anyway? But if we just option this, will this stop this? We've optioned it.
Fine, we optioned it.
Make it now. We're going to make it quite cheaply. Obviously, we're not going to get Eminem in it, but we could get James McAvoy. And that entire film happens as a result of an article that the film is going to happen. And that's it. And that was the greatest piece of number since. That is one of the best. He is so good at that. And if he became a marketer, everybody else would just give up. He is so good at placing things in the right place to have a huge impact. And he's seen little ways too. And I've reported on him. I've pointed out what he's done every single time. I've pointed it out. It doesn't stop him, and he doesn't stop people reporting to people. My favourite one has to be the fake granny. Do you remember the fake granny?
The fake granny?
When he had Starlight coming out, he set up a YouTube comic book reviewer of an old woman reviewing superhero comic books. Like, it's the first time she'd ever read them. And this was the thing. And it was running for a few weeks, and she would review, I don't know, whatever comic Brian Hitch was doing. Give away there. But and she would do a review, and then she reviewed Starlight. She somehow got an advanced copy of Starlight before FOC. And she reviewed it, and she said, I like it so much, I'm going to get a tattoo of this on my back. And then she gets a tattoo on her back. And it's on YouTube. And it's this point we go, no, first of all, that's not a tattoo, that's white paint, which you put a tattoo on top of. It's not a tattoo. Secondly, let's look at this person's environment. I recognise that door. I recognise the frame of the roof because that's the ceiling. Because those are the same that Mark Miller had
on his YouTube show.
Mark Miller had on some photos that he put online about one of his children being imprisoned or something like that. It's like, this is Mark Miller's house where this is being recorded in. Obviously, we knew it was fake, but that was the proof of it. And I think there's something reported. I think was it Blake Northcox? I think it was reporting for CBS Man Cave website, and she just ran the story straight. And I was just thinking, it's fake. And CBS had to run a little poll. Do you think this is true or not? And she was going, yeah, I never asked him to do that. But and then she starts working for Millerworld, and you're seeing where the joins are. So he's very good at finding the little weak points in where media report things and exploiting them. And I've got to say, it was a great story. And he talked about the fact that he's quite happy about these things being exposed because he gets the publicity when he just story, it gets picked up, and then he gets the publicity when he gets exposed.
Right.
All publicity, and he's right, and it never stops. The next time, it never stops again. He just keeps going. He is remarkable. So yeah, Mark Miller, hats off to him. He's an astoundingly good marketer. Aside from that, you look at the normal, the actual marketers. I mean, David Hyde and Hannah, they do a quite fine job at Superfan. Jeremy, there's quite a few people who have actually started doing like kind of comic book PR. We're seeing a bit more of that, and that's fine. But it's not quite faking an image of President Obama carrying a copy of Superior and getting newspapers to run it. That is Mark Miller, and that is genius.
That is definitely commendable. In a world where we are, as you said, the comic books are in and of themselves, they are incredibly serious art. They are absolutely should be respected, but also they're fun. They're silly. Selling them should be fun. Yeah,
and it can be. I mean, you yourself were working with Bad Idea.
Yeah.
Oh, and I've got to say, I don't know if they were inspired by Mark Miller, but they certainly seem to enjoy let's just see what we can get people to run, and let's see what we can do, and let's just what would be a good headline? Like, let's work backwards. How can we make that headline happen? That seemed to be what you guys are doing, and it was fantastic. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Bad Idea as an entire publisher, that was hilarious. And you got so cross. They still talked about it. What was the one I got? Oh, I got mad. I got Tom McFarlane was not happy with you guys. I know there's you. Were you around when it was the pay us some money and we'll make you an employee?
Oh yeah,
A bad idea.
that's right. Yes, we
Is that
did.
you?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was there
So
when
a
we did
few
that. Yeah.
people literally took that literally as if they paid whatever it was, $2,000, whatever it was, they would become an employee, a bad idea, an actual employee, properly with a salary and everything. And so that's what some people did. Yeah, Tom farming, because I'd run that story. What are you doing? Trying to putting out this kind of nonsense and these kind of people. I know someone who's been destroyed by this. They've actually done this, and I thought, oh, this is true. I thought it was
Someone was
part of the game.
destroyed by
I thought
this.
everyone was reporting this passion as part of the game. If you were to do it, fine, you get something out of it and fun. But so much, so I had to go to people and say, there's a person, I don't know this person, they've done this, they think they've actually, and they've put their life savings into it, or something like this, or that when they can't, it would be quite a good idea if we kind of find a way to just pull back on that one. And the idea people did, and I was able to tell people, yeah, I've managed to intercede on this person's behalf. But yeah,
Wow.
I mean, I thought it was very funny. Not everyone always thinks it's funny or sees the joke. I definitely have to learn over time of the years that not just because you tell a joke does not mean everyone's going to think it's funny
It's
or
true.
will react in that way.
That is very true.
Yeah.
And we're
That's the difference between the noughties and the now. Definitely.
yeah, we did we still, I'm still connected to Bad Idea, but I don't, it's primarily my work is now on Prana, but yeah, we did some incredible work there. I am so proud of everything that we did there. It's and like there are things I look back on it. Would we do it slightly differently? Did we learn something? Yes, but because nobody was doing what we were doing, we weren't quite straight stealing.
I think that idea was definitely inspired a few bits and pieces from various publishers over there. Maybe not quite the extreme.
Yeah.
I look at some things like that Bolt or Boom do, and yeah, there's definitely a bit of bad idea in there. So yeah.
Thank you. I'm definitely using that one as a clip.
One of the things is, I look at these sorts of we talk about stories, difference between all other sites. There are big stories that we have run, but no one else has run. I don't know why sometimes. Because I think they're so fantastic.
Right.
I look at it, this is a brilliant story. Why did we have anyone? Why would anyone else care about this one? And some of them think, well, there's something else going on. Like there's something else going on, and I don't know what goes on, and I like to look into it. And there's some of the bad ideas stuff we ran. I don't know why nobody else ran this.
Yeah.
Because it's great.
Yeah. There were plenty of times.
Was the Fantagraphics thing with Emil Ferris, her monsters book.
Right.
That he sued. Oh no, Fantagraphics sued her over not providing the second book, and all the PR was lovey-dovey about the second book. Oh, it's going to be, who's going to be publishing, isn't it fantastic? Emil's wonderful. I think Fantagraphics is great. We're so honoured to be putting out the second book, and then you've had a court case where they force her to give them the second book rather than do something else. Was it a second book? Was it a sequel? And it's the only time that Fantagraphics has sued a comic book creator. And I thought that was amazing. Now it's a lot of work, dig into all the legal paperwork, and there's only certain things we could get away with running, because even if it's filed and legal paperwork, you could potentially be sued, and people were being sued for things. And then we discover, as a result of this, that she got $500,000 for the first book, and I don't think anyone thought that you could actually put out a graphic novel published by something like Fantagraphics and make $500,000.
$500,000, yeah.
That's a game changer for all sorts of people trying to do their own contracts. So the fact that we can actually run that story and point this out, I know some people went to their agents and said, "Really, this is the kind of thing you can get these days." And publishers going, "Yeah, maybe we should look at the amount." Just the fact that you can actually do this kind of stuff.
Sure.
People do sell in a time where some publishers are having struggles getting 10,000 copies of a certain comic book, say. The fact is that a graphic novel created basically by ballpoint pen on lined paper and published by Fantagraphics can do so hugely.
Right.
If it gets the right audience. Again, this is the stuff I love to tackle. The comic industry is not the shape that a lot of people think it is. Because the big two are not Marvel and DC. The big two are Scholastic and Penguin Random House. That's just impressed. That's even without thinking about people like Webtoon. I mean, this is bigger than, certainly in America and it's in the West, it's bigger than manga. the big sales in comics these days are kids comics. Bit of middle grade, a bit of YA. That's where the big numbers are. And that didn't used to be kids. Do you remember when it was kids, like, everybody thought comics were for kids? And there was a battle to say, no, they can be for adults too, and they can sell big numbers.
Not just
Arkham
for
Asylum
kids.
can sell.
Yeah.
And they can make big numbers. Well, now it turns out, actually comics are for kids. Really, they are for kids. And they will sell. This is it. Right now, we're getting about a handful of graphic novels in America are selling 7 figures.
Yeah.
Then you've got about 50 books in the year selling about 6 figures. And then you've got hundreds selling 5 figures. And that's not picked up by a lot of comic book readers' knowledge on the situation.
Right.
And sometimes people will just dismiss this, it's a Dogman and manga. And it's not. That's just one example. I was looking at people like was Shannon Hale, who used to do things like Wonder Woman comics that would, for DC, they'd sell 20, 30,000 if she was lucky. And then she does Best Friends graphic novels, and they have print runs in millions. And it's still the same writer, doing the same kind of stories, but she's found a way to connect the stories with an audience. And I think it's Scholastic. I mean, are great at that kind of thing. So, but there's so much of that, the investigators as a graphic novel series that no one realizes there's selling as many as it is. It's a 7-figure selling series. There's about 15 or 16 out of them. These are the books that do so well. So when people start to ask about, if only Marvel and DC went back to the old days to do certain things like the way they used to do them, went back when it was just white men doing the books, that kind of thing. No, that's not what the sales
Where are
is right
the
now.
white men doing white men stories for white men? Let's go back to the good old days.
Still quite a few, to be fair. Still quite a few of them. But the big sales are it's other stories being told for kids.
Yeah.
And which aren't doing the kind of the. I'm not going to be. I'm not a big fan of investigators. I admire its success. My daughter, my youngest, really loves Raina Telgemeire's work. And I've got to, I think that's really quite cool as well on a very different level. But I'm interested in what they're going to be reading 10 years' time.
Me too.
Because
I think that's going to be fascinating.
The whole cover as a whole isn't ready for millions of people who are now reading, Dogman or whatever, and what they're going to be reading in 10 years' time.
Yeah, I think if we talk about the health of the direct market a lot on this channel, and I will say that, to my mind, if comic shops can adequately prepare for that onslaught, we have nothing but growth ahead of us. It's a huge generation that we're got to be ready for.
I would like to. Dav Pilkey definitely needs to do the Dogman Return, the dark, gritty revival.
I'm looking forward to that.
Set in the near future with a well.
This actually dovetails into a question I have for you that I think we're going to get a surprising answer. Maybe not the answer that many people would expect. You haven't done for the longest time. You've been doing the most powerful people in comics, the comics industry, top 100 or whatever it was. Yes, and you haven't done that in a while. I always liked it. I thought it was fun to debate and say, you got that wrong, but that's great. Whatever. Who is today, right now, who's the most powerful person in the comics industry?
Is it David Saylor? Is it the guy who runs Scholastic Graphics? I think it's David Saylor. Him.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I would also look at people in Webtoon. There's one of the guys who runs Webtoon, probably I would definitely put in number 2, if not number 1. So I'll have to debate back there. And then maybe just because the effect they have, I would definitely put someone like Kevin Feige and James Gunn, just because of the effect they have on Marvel and DC. And what actually gets from the films and TV projects that they choose is a massive effect when comics get published. But they're quite a way down the line, I think. I would definitely be looking at people at Random House. And then there's manga as well. So I'll definitely Okadansha. But it's, again, whenever the power list, it's not just are you in a position, it's like how do you exercise that power? So the decisions that you make, if there was somebody else in your position, would they be making different decisions? So because of you being there, are you having a big impact? So you could say also like accountants and things, but they might not have the same impact. Anyone else in their position would say the same thing. Mostly. So I would generally judge it by looking at the actual impact that a person has in that position. And often that meant I would give people higher positions than their direct superiors, because the direct superiors weren't having as much of a visceral impact on what was going on. So, but again, that does and has changed. When I was doing those lists, I definitely noticed how that was changing, how kids comics were having a much bigger impact. So the earlier lists sort of had people like Perlmutt at the top, but by the end, it's people like Dow Pelkey and David Saylor and people like that. So there was a definite kind of shift and change over the years I was doing it.
Is there a replacement for Ike in Marvel now? Is there?
No. Would you like some scoops?
Let's go.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Stuff I've been discussing about recently. I've been talking about people, and no, and let's be fair, Ike, pretty terrible person. But he was a person at that time in Marvel who could take decisions, and those decisions will be enacted. So he was very much a dictator figure.
Sure.
You could appeal to him. You could say, "This is the thing that we want to do. Show me the money. Show me the figures. Here's the figures. Fine, that's great. Let's do it. Do it. I trust you. Let's do it." And that will be Ike.
Right.
And now at Marvel, everything will have to go up through various levels, up through Disney. It'll take an age. It's no one's making decisions as easy as they might have done in the past. Before then, for better or for worse, you went to Ike, and whatever the decision would be, that would be the decision, and you get it that day, and you could then move forward. And at Disney, people at Marvel will be left waiting for things to get signed off. So there could be a lag. One of the great things about comics is it can turn on a sixpence. It can put things out really close. You can new creative work. You can change things. You can re-script a week before you go to print. The print takes 3 weeks. You can get stuff out there that's really quite fresh, and that's one of its strengths. And if you put in a big corporate body that's just slowing things down, you lose that strength. And I think that may be something that Marvel's going to have to find a way to compensate for or deal with. Because right now, I know that that's not happening. And so, that's going to affect the talent you keep. Because if you can get an answer to something that creator wants an answer to, yay or nay, at least they know. If you keep them hanging around for ages, that's the most frustrating thing going. It's like you don't know whether your project's been greenlit or not. It's the most frustrating thing. And then Marvel used to be really quick. Used to know. Now, not so much. Now it's taking a lot longer to get to it. And that people are going to get frustrated. People are going to leave.
Yes.
That is the story that I'm in the middle of writing. So, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Well, you let me know if maybe I can rush that clip out before you're. No, I'm kidding, William. I'm kidding. The traffic goes to you, buddy. All right, so we talked about Marvel. We have to go to the distinguished competition. I've noticed just I've tried to stay as close as I can to that team. I think they're a great team, but they've struggled. I think editorially, they've struggled to really find a voice. They've struggled to find an audience recently. But it feels like that's shifting to me, just from the outside and talking to comic shops. There seems to be a shift in the sales, and I'm personally more interested.
Up or down?
Up.
Which way?
Up. I think it's starting to head up.
I think a lot of that down to Scott Snyder. He's managed to excite a lot of people with the whole DC All In and Absolute. That's a very strong push. I've got to say, in current sales, I'm not seeing it as much. I run a weekly bestseller list on Freeman Cool, where we get results from comic book shops about what is sold that week. And while DC do have some surprising books that outsell others, and Batman is pretty much always one of the top sellers, a lot of the other stuff is not. A lot of stuff is being pushed down by Marvel in terms of overall sales. Weirdly, I think, Zatanna and Birds of Prey seem to be outselling almost everything else that DC is, which is insane. But that's the kind of way it's working.
Yeah.
Sales being affected much for DC yet. In terms of jumps, I'm looking at Image and the Energon stuff and the Ghost Machine stuff. That's been doing very well indeed. And occasionally you do get some surprises. But yeah, it's a weird thing. DC it's interesting to see where publishers' mid-ground is, because they've always got the high sellers and they've got like specialist items and they've got the mid-range. And I think definitely Marvel and DC for a while, the mid-range was falling off. Marvel, I think, managed to turn that ship around a bit more. So we're seeing better mid-sales
of late, I would say. Not so much for DC, which is why when you get surprising books that do well, they kind of jump up, they jump out. So yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone thought that Birds of Prey would be one of their bestsellers, or Zatanna would be one of their bestsellers, but they are. And they're outselling, Flash, Green Lantern, all that kind of thing. Probably Wonder Woman as well. Whereas Batman will sell well, Superman a bit, Detective Comics a bit, and then Birds of Prey and Zatanna. I did not see that coming, so I don't know whether we'll see that play out in other ways. That's the thing. It's like William Gibson said, no one knows anything. And that's the big difference. I still don't know. This one thing, I've been doing this for 32 years. I don't know anything. I've got my best guess. All this what I'm saying now is my best guess. Other interesting things. I think, again, so I'm in the middle of writing, I think we're seeing a bit of a move away from crowdfunding, which is interesting, because not through anything the fault of crowdfunders, it's just postage costs have gone up. And that has changed the game right now. Suddenly the cost of running a Kickstarter has jumped because posting things out, whether internationally or nationally, is suddenly a lot more expensive than it used to be. And so rather than getting a comic book for £5 or £6 or dollars, well, you now have to pay $10, $20, $30 just for a comic book. And that, unless you're a massive, massive fan of that person, and some people are, so the people who can rally their troops might be fine for it. People are okay. People like Eric Julie are quite good at getting people to pay $50 for a normal comic book. If you can do that, you're fine. If you can't, crowdfunding may not be the best way to go. There are lots of other options. I mean, I can see a rise in self-publishing as a result of this, where you can get a distributor to amortize the cost of distribution. That may well help. So you may see people, and especially I think Diamond really would like a few more self-publishers right now. Thank you very much. They've lost a lot of things. I remember getting stuff distributed by Diamond back in the day was hard, man. Being a self-publisher, I did it. I had to really pull some weird strings. I got people like Brian Bolland and Steve and Simon Biss. I used to do the comic conventions with a board. I said, "This is the cover to my comic book. That's the title. Can you just put some characters on there that you own, and I'll put that as the cover, so I can say new comic book, Dirtbag by Rich Johnston, cover by Simon Bisley and Dave Sim and Mark Buckingham and things like that." And it worked. Yeah. It was great. Nothing else than that. But that's the only way I could get Diamond to cover to even. I could basically put some names to the cover, get Diamond to bring it. There were books I wasn't talking to, people like Brian O'Malley, who said Diamond turned down Scott Pilgrim. You could only get it distributed when it went through Pony. So it's really hard back then. These days, it's really easy to get distributed by Diamond. They'll take pretty much anything that sells quite low just to get them into the book. We've got previous catalogue. We've got to fund it somehow. So I think right now it's a perfect time if you're self-publishing to get your work through Diamond. And conversely, also through Luna. It's a lot easier to get distributed now because there's more competition in the marketplace.
Right.
Which is also well impacts, but it does mean you can get your stuff in front of retailers. Getting your stuff in front of retailers is the hardest thing. But if it's there, you can then move forward. So there are lots of stages you can take. That's just one of them. So again, the comic book industry, as it always is in flux. Stuff doesn't stay around for long. Weirdly, the direct market, comic book retailers, and the distribution market probably kept the comic book industry kind of like in amber. It was like preserved for a few decades longer than it probably should have had any right to be. When Phil set it all up, Seagate distributors and all that, which was a great plan, and it worked. It worked really well for a good long while. If that had not happened, comic books would have changed again and again and again in format, style, everything, the way they always had done. And I think the direct market kind of kept the 1970s vibe of comic books, American comic books, as it was for decades, where it would have changed. I mean, it kept superheroes, and superheroes were gone just as soon as they came, just like everything else does. Westerns, police, crime, romance. Things
it would have shifted culturally if comic book stores had not maintained and been the stewards of that genre.
I think, and then we got the 90s boom as a result of it, and all sorts of things. And I think the comic book shops can't keep amber as much as they used to, so things are changing. We see it. Bookstores are the new newsstand for comic books, and libraries, and book fairs. Book fairs especially, that's a massive change, because that's where kids are seeing comics, and they're cool, they like them, they're made for them. mean, I just look at Marvel. Marvel's big sales of late, and not what people think they are. They're, again, what I'm writing, they're not so much the X-Men books. What they are, it's the Scholastic Miles Morales Spider-Man. It's the Viz Deadpool Samurai, and it's Spidey and his amazing friends. The Kids Aid book. Damn, those are the books selling huge numbers. Because they're not going for the comic stores in that way. The numbers aren't getting reported even in the way that Iron Man to. So, but those are the big ones. So if I'm looking for more growth, I'm starting to see it. Oh yeah, there we go. Spider-Gwen, massively popular character for Marvel. No one saw that coming. Certainly not Marvel, but they're now doing Spider-Gwen comics for kids because they huge. They don't know Gwen. They don't know the history of Gwen Stacy. They don't need to know. They just think it's a cool costume, cool character. And she's called Spider-Gwen.
But how dare they though? Don't they know that we need our characters the way we've always known them? How dare they? I'm being sarcastic, by the way. Nobody get clipped that.
Really? Yes.
Yeah. Well,
sarcastic.
I feel like we should break here, and I think what I've learned here is that this has been so much fun, and we should do it again sometime when we have a little better maybe control over environment and technology. Because I'm a little worried about the sound here at the end. This has been wonderful. How do people find Rich Johnston? I can't imagine anybody who loves comics. How would they find you?
It's quite hard. I try to keep myself to myself, a bit of a hermit in that regard.
That's true. But, you're very difficult to pull out of your shell.
The dark net music tour, you might find me somewhere hiding under some kind of crypto rock.
Probably.
That Rich Johnston on Substack, Rich Johnston on Twitter, Richard Johnston on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. I do my political. I do a great thing on TikTok. I do my political cartoons, which I do for a political website in the UK. That's another thing. I'm one of the most read political cartoonists in the UK. I should probably mention that. But I put up these videos of like just how this cartoon was drawn and which photos I referenced, what I nicked, what I swiped, and you can just see it as it was put together. And they're quite fun. I put those up on TikTok. I don't know what else to do with TikTok. I'll come up with something, I'm sure. But right now it's just like I draw a political cartoon. And right now, I'm doing a lot of Judge Dredd because drawing the current Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, as Judge Dredd, it's been an utter delight to me. I love it. It's so much fun seeing who he's going to come down on like a ton of bricks in an authoritarian fashion next. And just drawing Judge Keir is so much fun. I get to draw Judge Dredd. It's great. And for cartoons.
Excellent. Well, I lost my screen. Hold on.
Actually, I could revisit you in about half an hour with a little bit of a coda to this because I'll be in the comics pub. And I might.
Well, I think we definitely. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd love to go ahead and stop here, and I'd love to come back and have another part 2 with you very soon because your predictions are always good, and we can get a look at how they performed.
All right. Yeah, put in the microscope.
Excellent.
What got wrong. See what I got wrong. But all my terrible things that I clearly didn't realise were absolutely incorrect and never apologise for. Definitely ring them all out.
And no one ever apologized to you for telling you that you were wrong the first time.
I wouldn't expect them to. I wouldn't want them to. It's fine. It's good. Good. They know.
Awesome.
They
Wonderful. Rich, this has been fantastic. Hi again. Thanks so much for watching Comic Industry Insiders. It, as always, is our pleasure to talk to the movers and shakers of comics and to bring you those conversations. We'd love it if you'd support us with a like and subscribe, and telling your friends is always good, but really what we'd want to do is hear from you. Any questions, any suggestions you have about our show, any suggested guests, frankly, anything at all, we'd love to hear from you. Our producer is nearly always Stephanie Gerk, and our researcher is Anthony Militano, who makes me look much smarter than I am. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Namaste, y'all.